Hello Flickering Myth family and welcome to our channel. My name is EJ Marino and we have a new Disney Plus Marvel review. Yes, we're going to be jumping into the first 4 episodes, or at least my overall feelings on the show Moon Knight. Going into Moon Knight, I'm going to be much like a lot of people. I don't know much about this character. I know who the general idea is. I've read some rough comics. Yeah, I've seen what this character can do, but I don't know much about him. So I went into this series pretty fresh, pretty open-minded, ready to have a good time because I like Egyptian gods, religious cults, and Oscar Isaacs. So I was set for this series. I thought I was going to absolutely love it, but sadly, I don't. There's something about it that just hasn't hooked me in. Within the first 4 episodes, I went from going, wow, this is really cool, to, oh, this is okay. And then episode 3 and 4, I was definitely like, I don't know if this is for me. It's a really puzzling series because, again, there's a lot of elements that do work here. I think there is some solid stuff that they're attempting to do, especially for me wanting the Marvel brand to change up a bit. I'm happy to see that, but some of the changes don't work, and then sometimes they fall back on some very cliched negative stuff from Marvel. We'll talk about that in a moment. Yeah, some of that just kind of seeps into it, and it just makes the experience a bit messy, a bit hard for me to, figure out what I like and don't like about it, so hopefully in this video, I do. One of the easiest things to praise about this show is Oscar Isaac in a dual role. He is very, very good in this series. Do I love his accent he's using for the Steven character? No, it's a bit strange, it's a bit weird. I don't know if it's exactly where I would go for my English accent. I don't do them well, but yeah, it feels weird. That's my only complaint in his acting department. I think he works well with the material that's given. I don't think he nails some of the humorous sides to these moments, but I do think he handles the more dark, the exploration of the DID of the character. I see that's where he shines in this role. When he has to make a Marvel quip or kind of get into a action-y role, it's not my favorite, but he has a moment with the character like Layla where they're starting to really connect. So yeah, I like some of those moments. He has the good heartfelt moments. I just think he struggles in the grander Marvel stylings of the show. I don't know if I would pick Oscar Isaacs for a leading man in a superhero series or movie, but he does well with what's given. I think I like him in more other stranger roles than this, things like Ex Machina and stuff like that, where I feel like he can really sink his teeth into, but he's doing fine here. I also like the other actors. I think Ethan Hawke is having a damn good time as a villain. There's not much to his character. I do think in episode 4 we get another layer to his character that could be far more interesting to explore. I'm excited to see that, but at the moment I'm just like, his character's cool. Ethan Hawke is a damn good actor, but I'm not getting everything I need from that. Everything here acting-wise I like. I like F. Murray Abraham as the voice of Khonshu. I think he's funny. Does he need to quip as much as he does? Yes, our Egyptian moon god does do some quips in this. Some people say he is like that in the comments, that he's a bit sassy. I don't know much about him, but I do think it's odd. So yeah, those things are fine. All the performances are good. Do I like what's written for them? Not much, but they're okay. I also really have to note that I do like the action-adventure quality to this. There is nothing like this really in the MCU. There's a bit of a Tomb Raider, a National Treasure, a Mummy atmosphere to this. I love all of those things. I just talked about this in my Lost City review about the return of the action-adventure films like this. With Jungle Cruise last year as well, I like these type of movies. I like these type of stories, and I do think that works. It makes us feel a bit different compared to the other Marvel series. I definitely feel like this isn't it's nothing like Hawkeye or Falcon and the Winter Soldier or Loki or WandaVision. This really stands out on its own. It's really fun to watch some of the fetch quest stuff where I'm like, all right, here he goes hunting for another thing. He'll go to this people, and now he goes to hunt for another thing. It works for a series. I don't know if they could do this more than 6 episodes, but the little action-adventure quality does stand out, and it makes it a positive. Now, let's get to the negatives. One of the overall feelings I have of this is it feels rushed. From the storytelling to the VFX to the action scenes to the character development, everything's on fast forward. I don't know if they saw the 6 episodes and said, ooh, we got to get shit done quickly, because I was truly like, hey, breathe. Can we slow it down a little bit? Like, we get so far advanced with characters that, like, we have to have a long exposition backstory conversation to fill in the details about characters that we've already met episodes ago. So that's what I'm just kind of trying to figure out, why it feels so rushed, why I feel like I can't emotionally get invested into anything. It's just like, all right, here we go. Let's get into this. Let's do this. And I'm like, all right, cool. And it just, things happen and it just doesn't have any weight to me. Nothing really sticks with me in this series. There'll be a cool action scene. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. The villain will tell me his big plot. And I'm like, oh, that's fine. Like, none of this is really, really working for me. And when we talked about Rush, I can't, like, I can't ignore it. The VFX on this show are strange. I did get press screeners, so maybe the final product would be a bit more polished, but there's a scene where he's fighting this, like, monsterish thing, and it felt straight out of, like, the Goosebumps movie. I was not feeling it. Same thing with some of the CG for the Moon Knight suit. It definitely feels like a rubber dude when he's, like, running around on buildings and stuff. I just wasn't connected to the Moon Knight costume or the visual effects of any of this, especially when we get harder into the action scenes. Now, there is an action scene in episode 3 that is, like, people fighting. Like, Moon Knight fights people, and that works a bit more for me, but it's still so choppy and edited strange that I wasn't really into it as well. Again, there's just a lot of stuff that, like, it drives to the limit of me liking it, and then just reverses a bit, and I'm like, what are we doing? Also, this is going to be a big talking point for a lot of people, but there's not a lot of Moon Knight in this Moon Knight series. We've seen Mr. Knight in Moon Knight a couple times in these episodes. I think maybe one great scene in each episode of Moon Knight in the suit, playing around, being the hero, but for the most part, it's just Steven and Mark and Oscar Isaac fighting with his personalities, and I'm like, this is fine, but not what I was expecting. So I definitely feel like hardcore comic book fans are going to be a bit distracted that there's not a lot of comic bookness in this. It's weird, but yeah, let's dive into the Marvel side of all of this, the MCU side, and there's going to be some interesting things and some maybe not so interesting things. Overall, if I had to point one thing out that I love about Moon Knight, is it's furthering the MCU's journey into the supernatural, from, like, WandaVision to Doctor Strange to even Loki in a way. I like that these are getting a bit more whimsical, a bit more magic filled, less focusing on science and military stuff and more magic and more the supernatural and the otherworldly things. That speaks to me. It's why I like about DC stuff, because it's a lot of gods and monsters and then weird spooky characters. That's why I like that stuff. So for Marvel to start playing around in this world, it's gonna work for me. I like this. Like, when we start introducing Blade and things like that, that's where I'm going to get really hooked into the MCU, because I like all that stuff. So I definitely appreciate that Moon Knight is pushing this further, pushing Marvel further into the weird supernatural world. But I will say that this is not a Marvel-connected show. When I said it makes me think of a Disney Plus version of a Netflix series, it's because it's so isolated as well. Like, this feels like it exists in its own world. There's no force, like, wow, Mark, when we went through the snap 5 years ago, there's none of those kind of lines. We don't even talk about the magic spell that Peter Parker just did in this No Way Home. So, like, oh, this feels interesting that it feels isolated, but I know MCU fans like everything to connect into their little map, and it's just like, well, this is what the MCU is. I think that's going to throw some people off, that there isn't connections to the MCU, at least yet. In these final 2 episodes, I don't know, the Hulk, Blade, someone can show up and really cement this further in, but at least in the first 4 episodes, this definitely doesn't feel in the MCU. It feels Marvel, sure. It has the comedy, it has the weird CG, it has a lot of the plot stuff that feels very Marvel, but as opposed to the MCU, not so much, which is definitely a choice. Alright everyone, that is it for my review of Moon Knight, the first 4 episodes of it. I definitely plan to review this weekly, breaking down the episodes, getting into the nitty-gritty of each individual one. I've seen them, I like it, it's fine, I'll definitely watch it, but I don't think I would hardcore recommend this, at least right off the bat. I would say check it out when it comes out, and make sure you join us for our weekly reviews. I can't wait to get into those final 2 episodes in a couple weeks to see if I change my feelings. I'm not going to give this an RT score yet. I would probably lean on a rotten on Rotten Tomatoes, but I will wait to the final 2 to send in my score. Alright everyone, what did you think of this review? What do you think of the early reactions to Moon Knight? Share your feelings down in the comments below. Subscribe to Flickering Myth because we make videos like this every single week, and give me a thumbs up if you did enjoy. Alright everyone, let's talk about Moon Knight down below.